you have to do the healing in order to get past that. And part of it is I think remembering, I think you mentioned it earlier. It's like, look, if they want this, they'll be doing it, you know? And also realizing it's not like a straight road to like, it's, oh, you know, I've got a problem and now I'm in recovery and now I'm recovered. Like, it's a long and winding road.
It's a forever journey.
It's a forever journey. And there's a lot of stops along the way. And you know what? It might not go right the first time and it might not go right the second time, but it's like, as long as you're there as a support system and as long as you are there, as long as you love that person and as long as you are showing them that you love them, you know, you want to make sure that you can be that person for them and that you're not creating an environment where they feel like they can't be themselves around you or they need to run from you. You want them to run to you.
Welcome to the chaos.
You've been in the entertainment industry for such a long time. I know you have ties to the hospitality industry. What's been like one of your best memories you had or something that you like really loved and just like kind of sits in your heart that, you know, you think about and like, oh, I'm grateful for that?
Yeah. Well, you know, my brother Stuart Lafferty was on the show, and you guys know him well.
I know Stuart. One of my best friends.
Season 2.
Yep, that's right. So actually, season 2 of One Tree Hill, I think he booked a role on the show, and he was playing the son of like a family that worked at, you know, the Lowe's Motor Speedway out in Charlotte, North Carolina, and so we got to go and act in a scene together, and it was like all centered around the Lowe's Motor Speedway. There's NASCAR cars involved and stuff, and it was an awesome experience. And you know, I'll just never forget. Like, my mom came out for it, and it was really cool to share that with him and just have like One Tree Hill was a cool experience, but to have the experience to take the whole thing to Charlotte and do the whole NASCAR thing and him being there was a real pinch me moment. Yeah,
that's super awesome.
Yeah.
You guys were really tight growing up?
Yeah. We were. I mean, we shared a room until we were like, I want to say like 13 or 14 or something like that. I think we moved out of our house when I went into high school. We got a house with an extra room. We could finally have separate rooms.
Yeah.
We were close. We were very close growing up, and you know, we're 2 years apart, so not too far. You know, we had similar friends in school, and like, you know, we just always got along.
I mean, he was living with you until you got married, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, I lived in North Carolina most of the time. But yeah, man.
Well, even recently, I was saying, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he moved out, I'm going to say like 8 years ago, I think, something like that. But yeah, it was, you know, it made sense because I was here. So I was here max 3 months out of the year from, you know, like 2008 until I came back to LA from North Carolina in like 2011 or 12. So yeah, you know, he lived at the house, and it was nice to know that he was there. When I came back, it was like we'd hang out, and you know, then we were basically roommates for a few years after I came back from One Tree Hill. But yeah, you know, eventually, you know, you gotta part ways.
You gotta
like,
grow.
You know, I got a girlfriend who's not my wife. You know, like, I can't be living with my brother. He doesn't want to be living with me. So yeah,
that's funny. Well, we're gonna come back around to Stu because there's definitely some things we want to touch on there. But so love the show now. Everyone's doing great. It's hysterical, and I love how it's kind of a satire because obviously One Tree Hill was such a huge success and had such a cult following. So what was it like going from One Tree Hill to afterwards? And then like, is that kind of where the idea came for Everyone's Doing Great?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it took about 4 or 5 years for that idea to really incubate. Like, you know, Stephen Colletti, who's, you know, my co-creator, and he plays Seth in the show. I play Jeremy in the show. They're best friends. You know, it's they both come off of this like teen vampire drama, and you know, that idea came from our experience coming off of One Tree Hill, because he was on One Tree Hill with me. And we had a lot of funny stories, coming back to LA and getting back into the audition circuit. And sort of, there's a lot of things that happened that were out of our control, but there was also a lot that we realized we had to learn or kind of relearn coming back to town. And it was an experience. It was a 5 years of like sort of starting over, you know, and we had never started over in life before. And I, you know, looking back on it now, you realize, you know, you're probably going to start over multiple times in life, right?
Yeah.
But that was our first real turning point. So we kind of thought it was like a late coming of age.
Yeah.
It was maybe a coming of age that we would have had if we had like gone to college, you know, we would have had that coming of age earlier. Like we would have come out into the real world and been like slapped around a couple times by life a lot earlier. But that's not really what happened to us. Like we had a different track.
Right.
We experienced success young, and we came out of that success and we experienced more of the real world that everybody else had been living in for the last, 15 years. And we were like, oh, wow, it's kind of funny that we're just now learning these lessons at this age.
Yes.
This is interesting. So that's what inspired the show. Yeah.
I love it. I actually just started it last night, so
cool.
it's super fresh in my brain, and like it still even resonates. I didn't find success at a young age. Like I'm still working towards that. But even just like being in the audition room and like reading your sides, like the whole opening, he's just like saying the one word over and over, the one phrase, and then him having to. I'm like kind of fangirling because I just watched it and it was so funny and I didn't know about it. Like I knew that you guys had made it, but I didn't know what it was about.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh my God, this is like my life in a way too.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like
awesome,
so
man.
relatable.
it's so relatable and it's so genuine. Like we love Entourage, and it kind of gave me that, but like a little more heart.
Yeah.
With,
Yeah.
like the relationships.
We, loved the show Entourage, and it's a hilarious show. We always thought it was kind of like the anti-Entourage. Like you're going to come there for the same thing. You're going to come there to laugh.
Yeah.
You're going to come there because it's about camaraderie.
Right.
But it's like flipping that whole concept on its head. It's not about a meteoric rise or like the struggles of like of their the living up here.
Yeah,
it's like it's the struggles of trying to figure out how to adjust to a life that has gotten way out of your hands.
Yeah, and what to do next? Because like even though One Tree Hill was over, you guys still go back to North Carolina and or Wilmington and still do like charity events and all those things. So it's like even though you're looking for something else, that was still a huge part of your life.
Absolutely,
I mean, it still is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are. I think if you have the right mentality about it, or if you had a good experience with it overall, you're always going to be grateful for that. But also the question that you're going to get the most is like, do you think you've been typecast from that show? Or like, has it been hard coming off of that show? And I think just by being asked those questions, the idea gets planted in your head.
Yeah.
Oh, should this be a problem? Like, should I have a complex about this?
Right.
But and I think that's, again, what we tried to bring to the show is like how the different characters, they all have very different ways of dealing with this experience, sort of defining them in a way, at least in other people's lives for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And like your character in the beginning just wanted to get high and sit home and didn't want to actually do anything for the first year. And bro, you were hysterical playing that character. Just obviously knowing you too, it's like, yo, it's so different than One Tree Hill. It was so funny.
It's so funny. And
you killed it.
I can't wait to go home and watch it because it definitely hooked me. I just didn't have enough time to watch it. I got home late last night and I started. I was like, damn it.
Oh, man.
I need to go to sleep because I got to wake up early.
All good. No, thanks for watching it. It's available to like rent or buy right now.
Yeah.
And we're looking for the right home for distribution for both seasons, which is why like the first season should be up on some streaming service or something, but we're kind of holding it back until we can find a home for season 2 and push them both out there somewhere.
And you guys are doing it independently.
Yes.
So what is that struggle like? Because that can't be, especially in today's age, like finding that money, getting everything going. Like you film most of it in your guys' own places.
Yeah, we did, especially that first season. And, the second season, we opened the world up quite a bit. And we did go out and use more locations and stuff, but we still were rooted in that, independent ethos. So using a lot of our own resources, and calling in a lot of favors from family and friends. And, I think, yes, it adds to the workload, but look, man, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're making something for $500,000 or for $30,000 or for $500 million. Like it's really hard to make movies and TV. Like there are going to be struggles at every single level.
It's hard to make a podcast.
It's hard to make a podcast. Like it's going to test you. Like no matter what it is, if you're in production, it's going to test you. And so, it's been a test on like every level. But it's been a joy to like get through those tests with like our friends and our family. And, you know, my wife is in the show. She plays Andrea, and she was also on the fictional show, you know, with them. And so she's been a part of the whole journey. Stuart's a part of the journey as a producer. And, you know, to be able to do it with the people that you love, I can't imagine anything better. And it makes the hard times a lot easier to get through. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was going to ask because he told me it was self-produced, and then just last week I did this film challenge called the Eats Your Seals Disability Film Challenge. And I don't know if you've heard of the 48, like you have to make a film in a certain amount of days.
Oh yeah.
So this one, it's like, it was April 1st through the 6th. And I wanted to start my own team because, you know, I had a history of just like only being an actor, and I just wanted to do more, and I wanted to tell a story. So it was my first time producing, directing, and acting. And like, I didn't know the amount of work it takes to put together a project. And mind you, like, this is very small scale as compared to a series, but I was like every day, phone calls, emailing, asking the favors. And then this is like, you can't pay per the challenge. You can't pay people.
Okay.
So everyone has to volunteer and do it for the love of it, right? So by the end, I was just physically and mentally just drained to the max.
Yeah.
But I was so happy.
Yeah.
Like that we finished it. And yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, what were the biggest struggles for you producing like a whole series?
Well, first of all, that's awesome. Wait, was it 48 hours or 48
This
days?
one, there is a 48-hour film challenge.
Yeah.
It's like 2 days. You get 2 days to do everything. This one that I did is it's 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, you know.
Still.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah.
I think.
It used to be 2 days, but like, you know, it's people with disabilities. We just need a little more time to do things. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, it just made the films better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible. But I'm like, man, I don't know if I'll do it again, like producing, directing, and acting.
I must have taken everything out of you.
Yeah.
I listen, man, I think like you felt like the things that you were just describing, I think it's that exhaustion and knowing that you still have to be across the different things is the hardest thing for me is especially because you have to be on camera, and that what happens in front of the camera is the most important thing, right? That's what's going to live forever. That's what's selling to your audience. Like if your audience doesn't buy what's on the camera, everything you do behind the camera is for naught. So, you know, for me, it's trying to make sure that there is the energy necessary left to do what needs to be done.
It's the energy, dude. Yes.
And look, like we started this journey a long time ago, like 7 years ago, and those are pretty crucial years on my life timeline for energy levels. Like I'm turning 40 this year.
Yeah.
It's an exponential decrease each year.
Right.
So, I mean, I look back at, you know, what I was capable of, you know, 7 years ago. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can do this right now.
Right.
But you know, so that's, it's balancing that and leaving what you need, what is necessary for on camera for me. But I love what you said about, you know, feeling just completely like, hollowed out, but also so full.
Yes.
It's like you have nothing physically left, or but emotionally you're so happy. It's like you could cry. You know?
Right.
It's an amazing feeling to finish a project, and congratulations on finishing the project, because that's a massive accomplishment.
I don't know if you went through this, but like after the challenge was over, my first time in public, I was like in the grocery store. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what I just went through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I literally bled and sweat and cried in this project. Yeah. And everybody just living it up. Like,
you're just a husk.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what you said though, like where it makes it worth it too, is like when you're doing it with friends and family and people that really believe in everything, like you become so close.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after spending all those years on One Tree Hill with your brother, with your wife, it just adds another level of value to it and appreciation. Because it's like when I've worked on projects with people I can't stand, I'm like, this is miserable. Even when I'm done, I'm like, just get me the out of here.
Yeah.
But at least it's like when we do this with everybody, it's like we love the whole team, and it just makes it so much better and so much more fun and so much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, it really does. And I think you realize that if you didn't do it with them, like how much less it would mean.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go on like a journey like you guys are on, and, you know, or like any production team is on, and it lasts for so long, and you finally get to like the finish line, whatever that is for you, if it's the release or whatever. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't even like know how to feel. I don't like, this feels like it happened so long ago. I don't even know how to celebrate it right now. Yeah. But like when you do it when you're surrounded by the people that you love and they helped you make it, it's like, it just continues to mean something on another level for that much longer.
And then I think a lot of it is like realizing those moments too, like when we got we're in a studio, which is brand new for us because we didn't have this the last 2 seasons. So like when me and Sophia got here, we got keys, we took a second, we're like, holy shit, we have keys to our own studio. This is amazing.
This is the moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, but I think so many people, as you're like moving up that ladder, like you forget to remember those little moments. And it's like, no, you got to stop and take account for it because we may not be exactly where we want to be now, but we dreamed of being here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so a journey, right?
Yeah.
The destination, as they say.
It really is, man. Like those little moments are like what you're doing it for.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a beautiful thing. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. We're so excited.
So where are you at now with the show? And we were talking briefly, but if you can catch us up. So you did season 1, and then like when that happened and when it was released, what was going through your head? And like, because we talked about what you went through and the excitement, but like then you have to release it into the world, right?
Yeah.
Season 2.
So season 1 we released on Hulu, and it was like 2021 was our release, I think. And you know, getting onto Hulu was just incredible. Like, you know, it was like, I mean, that was a moment that I will never forget because we didn't think it was going to go very well. We had submitted to a lot of different places, and Hulu was like the last one to get back to us. Most of the other places hadn't got back to us or passed. And I just kind of felt like we had been out to market for like a year and a half. And I just remember like being at the park with Alex, and we were there with our dog, Billy. And I just like laid down in the grass and was just like I laid face down in the grass and just like laid there. She was like, "Are you okay?" She was like, "I've never seen you do that before." And I just was like, I thought it was over, you know, I don't know. Nothing in that moment had happened to make me think so. It just felt like the train stopped moving. Mm-hmm. And then my phone dinged and it was an email. Like in that moment, my phone dings and it's an email from our agent saying that Hulu made us an offer. And I was like,
That's
wow.
Awesome.
It was like one of the only like moments like that in my life. So I remember.
I hope that's in season 2.
But
face first in the grass.
But yeah. So, anyways, we flash forward. It took a while to actually get the materials delivered and to get the everything like sort of lined up. We premiered in 2021. We were on Hulu for 2 years, and then we were on basically through like COVID and stuff. We weren't able to really get out there and market the show, unfortunately. We got on Paramount Plus internationally. Like in Australia, we had this big promo tour planned for us because it was like the rollout of Paramount Plus. And unfortunately, we could not get into the country because they weren't allowing people to come in for marketing purposes at the time. So it was amazing to be on these platforms, and we did well. We got ourselves like a cult audience, but we didn't feel like we really reached our potential because we just couldn't get out there in the world, and we also were very naive about just marketing and things like that. Like our resources were already stretched so thin, and we've learned so much, right?
Yeah.
But we did, the critics liked it, audience liked it. We knew we had an audience. So we had some success with the first season. We rolled that financial success into the budget of the second season. We produced that in late 2022, finished shooting that, edited it through 2023. And from the end of 2023 until now, we've been in like an unprecedented, entertainment industry contraction, film industry contraction, and TV industry contraction. And so right now we have a finished season 2, and we are just itching to get it out there. But by all accounts, it is not the right time to sort of make a rash decision and just try to get it out there. Right. Like, it's really hard for independent projects right now. And it's just, it's brutal in the industry overall. And so we're weathering the storm and trying to just be patient and make sure we find the right home for it at this point.
Yeah. It's like no one is taking risks. No, they're not, big companies aren't taking on projects. They're not taking on new concepts. And people who have something finished don't just want to release it because they have it.
Yeah.
So it is the waiting game, but it's gotta, sitting there having a whole season.
Yeah. There has to be a limit to how long you can wait. As
yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? So,
it's gotta be frustrating though.
It is. It's incredibly frustrating, but I think that we've all grown and learned from it. Like, like I was saying, like it's going to test you every single step of the way, and it's always going to test you in a way that you didn't see coming. And this was something we didn't see coming. And, but I think we've learned a lot through all of it. Like we've become better business people. We have our like finger on the pulse of the industry a lot more. And I think it's, tested our belief in the project as well. Like we don't want to just throw it out there willy nilly because we really believe in it. Like we really are excited to get this thing out there. So we want to give it the best shot possible. And that's just, I guess, that's where we're at.
Yeah. I think that, like finding the new audiences for season 1, like, do you have plans on doing that, like marketing, so you can get a fresh, set of eyes of a new audience that'll follow it, and then when season 2 is like coming out, they're like, okay, I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
Your brother tells me all the time all the new stuff he's like reading and doing, and calls me. He's like, "Yo, I just found out this." I'm like, "Thanks," but he must have so many ideas that he wants to roll out right now.
Yeah, he's been researching. He's been like HQ for the market research there and the marketing research. And that's been like an area where we've probably learned the most about like, our sort of shortcomings before season 1. And so, yeah, we're like always like we're talking, weekly about how to strategize, for our marketing approach for season 2, whether we, if it's going to be AVOD or if it's going to be an SVOD provider, or like if we're going to have multiple territories, or if it's just going to be domestic first, or, and things are changing so fast. And so like Stuart's been really great about just staying on the bleeding edge of what's going on all over the world. So yeah, I mean, part of it is like too much for me. I'm almost like, I'm starting to fall out of love with what we do. But I really do admire people that are, that can do that can really look at the numbers and really look at like landscapes and trends and like remember all the friggin' acronyms and stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. When I see numbers,
I just have to glaze over, but it's so important.
Yeah,
right. You need to understand.
But like also nowadays, it's like the way the world is working, social media is working, everything is so constantly changing. It's like you have to stay up on it. Oh, you have to do this content. There's this trend. There's this new people you have to follow. And it's like, I don't want to do any of that. No.
Yep. But somebody has to.
Yeah. It's just, it's part of the growth, right? Like industry is changing, the world is changing. So it's like, you have to keep up or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Full on, I love it. So you said when you and Stephen were figuring all this stuff out, you had a lot of funny stories. Like what are some of the funny things that you guys happen, or like things that you learned? You're like, man, auditioning in LA is different now.
Yeah. Oh man, I guess seeing people at auditions again that I knew like was much different, a much different feeling. It was like when I left LA to go to North Carolina, I was like, I had just turned 18. And so, and I hadn't, I had booked One Tree Hill when I was 17, and I had taken a bit of a hiatus from the whole thing, before that. So really when I was like auditioning a lot, was like the last time that happened was probably when I was like 15, 16, right? And then I come back to LA and I'm getting back into rooms, and it's just a different experience. Like I remember when I was a kid, like seeing like other kids that went to acting class with me or that I'd see at other auditions that I had a job with was like fun. Like catch up with them. And it's like the pride wasn't there and the competition wasn't there. We were doing it because it was fun. So like the waiting room was just a chill vibe.
Yeah.
And then like, you come back when you're an adult and the waiting room is way different. It's just like icy silence and like the one dude that's there, like talking to everybody, trying to like, psych him out or something. It's all just mind games and tension. And
it was like that scene when he walks in and the guy's talking to the casting director and she's like, it's a party, come to the party. And he's like, yeah, I'll be there. It just kills you. You're like, I'm not booking this. Like,
oh man. Yeah. It's like, or like your alternative to that is to like, just listen to what's going on inside the room.
Yeah. They're like
doors
laughing.
And you're like, what the
right.
So yeah, I mean, most of this stuff, honestly, we put in the show. So as you can probably tell.
It's so relatable. That's why I feel like it needs, season 1 just needs a new life. Like there's any actor that comes to LA or anyone that's wants to be in the entertainment industry, like you can relate to it.
Oh, well,
you know what I mean? So
that's good to hear.
I already started telling people last night that I work with on my film challenge, like, you got to watch this. Like it's so good. Man.
It has such a relatability to it. And you direct it, right?
Yes.
Most or a majority of it.
Yeah, I directed, Stephen and I directed in the first season. He directed episode 6 and I directed the rest of them because, at the time I had the most directing experience.
Yeah.
And like we designed it so that it would be shot kind of like a film. Like we shot it in the amount of time that you would shoot a film.
Mhm.
And we sort of block scheduled it so that we were, we were scheduled by locations instead of by like script order
Yeah.
or separated by episodes.
Yeah.
So that was just the way to get it done efficiently. We really had no money to like pay anybody to be directors. So I don't think anybody was going to come in and do us favors. So it's
But you've been directing because you directed The Royals, you directed All American, you directed some episodes of One Tree Hill too. So you had that experience and wisdom and knowledge where you probably didn't need one.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, like, where did you watch the directors that you work with on set? And like for me, I always have I see it in my head. I see the movie or whatever I'm doing play out. So like, what was your process of getting into that?
Yeah, it was a little bit of having an instinct that I wanted to do something like that. Like I did love to write, and I did like to visualize my own stories. And a lot of our other cast was directing on One Tree Hill as well. So
Nice.
it gave me the confidence to see that, this was a safe place to take that step. I liked to talk to the directors that came through.
Yeah.
I really liked taking in their different approaches, but I never really thought like I want to be a director.
Mhm.
I think it wasn't until my mom sort of recognized those things about me, and she told me like, hey, like, do you want to direct? She asked me if I want to direct. I was like, I think maybe. And she was like, because this was season 6 of One Tree Hill. So it could have been the last season. Our contracts as actors were up, and we were going to renegotiate maybe if we got picked up, but who knows how it was going to work out. So she was like, you should ask now because you might not get this opportunity ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, it was one of the few times I actually listened to my mom the first time, and it really, really
when it
worked
comes
out.
to this business.
Because it worked out, and I just fell in love with it and continued to do it, after that.
That's awesome. I mean, I have one more question on that, and then I do want to shift. But it's like, what's it like directing a show that you're one of the main characters on, and like you said, everybody else on it? So how does the rest of the cast like acclimate to that, or everybody's just kind of like cool with it? Or
it's a good question. I mean, yes, everybody is cool with it, and I think it's a top down thing that comes from like the first person that did it, and I think it was Paul Johansson was the first actor, or it could have been Moira Kelly. It was one of the the adult cast, like the actors that were playing our parents on the show,
Right.
and they did such a great job and took it so seriously and sort of led by example. And then with each person that does it, you sort of realize like, hey, look, I might want to do this sometime. So like, nobody's going to like act out.
that's cool though.
I think it's a mutual respect, but also there's like a mutual accountability, like,
Yeah, and people like on set, they realize how difficult it is to just get to that point, right? So, and it's if your friend, like, it's like if you're in school and your friend gets up to teach a class, you're like, yeah, come on, dude. Or you're going to rib on them, but...
Yeah, but I've also been in situations like if you're dating one of the actresses, that's probably got to be a little bit harder in certain points too.
Right? Like, let me get my
Like,
screen time, James.
Yeah, because like you met your wife while you were directing The Royals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, that stuff, I mean, look, if you are dealing with any of that or you're bringing any of that to the table, I think that it's probably not the kind of set you want to be on in the first place.
Yeah.
I think fortunately you are working with like professionals, and if they're doing their jobs, like they're not thinking about any of that stuff when the lights are on, it's like, it's time to work and they're doing what they love. So all that stuff kind of goes away. But if you do find yourself in that situation, I feel bad for you. You get out of it.
It's kind of tough. Do you have any other questions, acting related or director related, before we kind of move into the next topic that we really wanted to touch on?
Yeah, just after directing a few times, did you find like there was a directing style that you liked, or like what filmmakers like spoke to you that you like kind of wanted to emulate?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, like, well, I think I was feeling like I was coming into my own or gravitating towards a style around the time we made the first season of Everyone Is Doing Great, and I was watching a lot of David O. Russell and Adam McKay, and I just really liked this style of like a controlled chaos. Honestly, I really do. I love the handheld style, and I love it when, a movie can make you feel, or a TV show can make you feel like you are right there with them. You're in that conversation, and be unpredictable as well. Mm-hmm. Like you sometimes you watch a movie and you can just tell when the actors are so comfortable, they're so in it. they did something that wasn't scripted, right? They did because you felt it. And I love those moments, man. I think they're real, sparks in what we do. So
yeah, that's what I felt. I felt like I was like a voyeur on these people's lives in the first episode when I watched it last night.
That's awesome, man.
It was just like I was sitting in the grass, like in the bush.
That's how we pitch it. So
yeah.
It's working.
No, it is, man. I'm excited to finish it.
But we wanted to switch up a little bit and kind of take a perspective that we had never actually had before. But your brother was on season 2, Stuart Lafferty, episode 204, and he was raw and vulnerable, and we greatly appreciate it. It's actually one of the most watched episodes of season 2, and he spoke openly about his addiction and all that he went through, and he's been such an advocate for it. And like when I went through my issue and went to rehab, he was a huge supporter. He came with me to meetings, drove all the way out to where I was in rehab, and like it was amazing. But addiction's a family disease. And I think people that are, there's always the person in the forefront is getting most of the attention, and understandably so, but it affects everybody around them. And you were the closest to your brother. Because he was living with you at that time. And from what he told me, like he was hiding so much from you. Like, how was that? And what was going through your mind there? And like, if you're cool with opening up deeper about that,
yeah, absolutely. I think about it all the time, because I think that a big thing that comes with all of this is like, thinking about what you would do differently, or, thinking about why you didn't notice some things, or realizing that you did notice things, but you were, why didn't I say anything? Like, what, did I not care enough? Like, what does that say about me? Like, there's a lot of questions that come up that, really you struggle with, I think. But then you start to learn, you use the resources, you go to the meetings, like you go to the AA meetings, or go to the, Al-Anon, or, read the forums, or watch the TV show, like, listen to the podcast, and you realize that there's something going on there. There's so many things going on there on so many different levels, and denial is a strong thing, like as much denial as someone might be going through who's struggling with addiction. That denial can be just as strong, even stronger actually, in their family around them. And it's not because their family doesn't love them. It's because, you want your family to be okay. You want more than anything for your family to be okay. That's all you want. And it's powerful enough, that feeling, to make you, to blind you. It is. So, like watching and listening to the podcast that Stuart did, like, it was one of the most satisfying things for me ever, because he was talking so openly about it to you guys and to an audience, and that didn't happen overnight. It was really, the hardest time was when he didn't feel like he could talk about it, and all any of us wanted to do was talk to him about it. What's going on in your head? Like, how can we help? How can we help? But we had to get over that, because and find a way to get over that, and just sort of, I think you have to find a way to be a support, as opposed to trying to do it for them, or making it about you in any way. I don't know, I'm rambling now, but I just think it was listening to the podcast was a real moment for me, because I just had always really, I guess, wanted that day when I could watch him talk so casually about it, to the point where he's able to help other people. Like I know he was helped by friends like you and the people at his meetings and things like that. Yeah.
We had me and Myron actually talked about this a couple of times with Stu, but because when Stu was really going through it, we were all working festivals together.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things where, like, me and Myron, like, yo, something's off, but we're so buried in our own shit. And me and Myron were going through, I know you know Myron very, very well. Me, Myron, and Stu were as close can be, but like we were all battling with our demons at the same time. But we had the same thing. It's like, yo, how could we have helped him better? And I had friends who come to me like, I wish I could have done more. And it's like, you couldn't have. Like, you do what you can. And it's like, what's going through his head? It's like, and I can say this because I've been there. It's like, I don't even know what's going through my head. So how can I tell you and express it to you? And when people keep on pushing you, it's like, I'm just going to shut down more, because now I feel even worse that I should have something to say to you. And I should be able to talk to you, but I just can't. Mm-hmm. And then it makes me feel more like want to reprieve more. And then it's like, well, how do I reprieve? I go to the things that I shouldn't be doing.
Yep. Absolutely. And that, I think that, from the outside looking in, you can see the cycles, you can identify the cycles, but that doesn't make it any easier to address, because I think that, the longer something goes on or the longer something's not talked about, it's just sort of like a pressure cooker. It just builds the pressure and it builds the stakes. And suddenly it becomes like, it's not like I wish I could say something. It's just like, I want to say something so bad, but I'm so scared I'll say the wrong thing. Because what if I only get one chance to say something? And that's enough to scare anybody off from saying
anything.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
there's a lot of mind games that are played, but I think, it's again, it's something that I just encourage anybody who's going through it to use the resources, because you don't have to figure this out on your own.
Yeah.
And you really shouldn't, because there's so much help out there.
Right. And there's something you said about denial. Like I went through this when I was in my height of my working in nightlife and bars. And one night my sister came over and it was like, she started talking to me, and I forget who else was there, but I suddenly realized, I was like, am I having an intervention right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like telling me, I don't know who you are anymore. Like you're different. Like you're not the brother I used to have. Like you're not this person. I'm like, what the are you talking about? Like I'm the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in such denial at the time. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, man, I had lost who I was on the inside. And I was the only one that couldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when my sister came to me, I was like, I don't know what you're talking. You're crazy. Like I'm the same person. I'm Danny. Like I'm happy. And she's like, you're only happy when you're drinking or you're partying, like with your friends. Like I don't ever see you. I don't ever see that person that I loved. And for me, how I got out of it was I had a traumatic accident.
Mm-hmm.
A mountain biking spinal cord injury that forced me out of that lifestyle. So I literally had to stop, and then just like doing the self work and like, building myself back up. Now I look back at that moment, I was like, man, I was so lost. And, but like, it's like your family coming to say, yes, the intentions were good on her half, and yours were probably like you wanted to say something, but at the end of the day, the person needs to be able to be ready to receive it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Because if they're not, then they're just going to be denial and put up that wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm happy that I don't know how Stu came out of it. So do you want to touch on that?
Oh yeah. It's a testament to who he is, that he was ready to hear it. I mean, it didn't happen right away. It was like, there was some denial, I think, at first, but ultimately he wanted to be better and he wanted to get help. And, at the time we were just, it was like, as soon as he said he was okay with getting help, he wanted to get help. It was like, boom. All right, let's figure out how to get him help. Like we hadn't even thought past that step, and then all of a sudden it's like the house is like, like a friggin' like everybody's on the phone trying to figure it out. And then you realize everybody in this city is trying to get into some place that can help them.
Wow.
And it's expensive.
It's so
Dude,
expensive.
It's insane.
And if you're trying to get help that is affordable, it's like, good luck, dude. Like, we're talking about my brother who, we just had to call the ambulance for him because like he had a seizure and it's the next day and he's literally like still coming down off this stuff. We have nothing to give him. We're scared that he's going to die. And they're just like, yeah, the first opening's in a month. And you're like, like what? Like okay, I can't take him to like a GP. We can't take him we take him to the hospital. They say like, we can't do anything for him. Like, what do we do?
Where do we go?
And there's no, we're calling helplines and they're all sort of diverting you back to the same places that you were already talking to, and they can't help you. And it was just literally a matter of like staying on the phone with someone until we got like, it's like when you're dealing with like anything bureaucratic, right? Where you have to find like the individual on the other end of the line who's gonna help you. We found that person, thankfully, and we got him into a place. And it was only after, he did that. It was probably this week that all this was happening. It was only after he did that I sort of realized, like, my God, we're so lucky he just said yes in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, we're so lucky that he like was willing to do this, because I just realized how, hard it would be to be in that conversation with someone who was not willing to, and how much scarier that would be.
Yeah.
So So yeah, fortunately, and again, it's a testament to his, he loves us, he loves himself. And that's what you need to be able to do, is love yourself, I think. And he proved that, and he continues to prove it, and like, just so proud of him.
And it's an ongoing healing. Because me and him have a lot of conversations that most of our friends don't understand, because they didn't go through the steps. They haven't been in the process. They weren't in that part. And like, you guys talk about denial when you kind of feel it. I mean, him actually talked about this yesterday, about you coming on and just how he was feeling. It's like, after that denial hits, after that denial is gone, actually, everything you bottled up comes out. You feel so awful. And it takes so long to heal that, because you know that you hurt your friends and family. You know that you put them through hell, and that just weighs on you. So like, I know that still weighs on him a bit at some points. I know that weighs on me with my family at points. And it's just like something that you have to continuously work on to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I struggled with how to talk about this, before he came in, because I didn't want to share a story like I just shared and have it come off like it was something that like Stuart put us through, or like some like wound that I had to heal from or something, because it really wasn't. Like,
it's a sickness.
That's the thing. It's like, you want to be there to help you, that we're all going to go through stuff, right? Whether it's, a terrible diagnosis or something like this, or whatever, or an accident, it's like, we're all going to go through stuff. Like, I think that your family wants to be there for you. They really, really do. And it's going to mend their hearts just to know that they can help you be better. Right. And I just want to make that clear. That's what was driving us. And there was frustration that I had with the process, with just how little. I was frustrated with myself that I was so unprepared for this moment. I was frustrated with myself that I hadn't recognized the signs earlier, and that I didn't really have a protocol for this at all. And then once I sort of started to try to, get out there and reach out for help, I was frustrated with what had been set up, which I know is no one person or anything, but that was really frustrating.
It's a broken system.
Absolutely. But, at the end of it, it was just real gratitude, and then kind of like reflecting on, like now I think all the time about how I could recognize the signs, and, my brother or myself or anyone really, like, I think that I could see things a lot clearer, but think a lot about like why I missed so many signs back then. And I think part of it is chalked up to, you were saying, like, how young we were and our mindsets and the other things that we were focused on. And like, we weren't prepared for the fact that this could be a thing. Mm-hmm. It takes a while sometimes to recognize that a problem is a problem.
I also think there's like a stereotypical thing in like culture, right? When you think of people with addiction, everyone's automatically thinking it's the person on the street who has a problem and can't get help. And it's like, no, most addicts are actually extremely successful people, can do a lot, are creative, are brilliant, and just don't know how to cope with some of the stress. So it's like, why would you learn about that? Why would any of us have that knowledge in our head? Because one, we're never taught about it. We're just told, oh yeah, that person's an addict, they have a problem, they're homeless, don't worry about them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you're like, oh, I'm never going to get there. No one in my family's ever going to get there. We're fine. I don't have to think about that until it happens, because there's such a stigma surrounding it.
Yeah.
We've got to be able to teach like compassion and empathy at a young age. Like, even with disability, when I became disabled, I didn't know anything about disability. Mm-hmm. Like, I was completely ignorant to the fact, like, I'd see someone in a wheelchair, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to ignore them, And that started happening to me after my accident, and it made me feel like this big. I felt insignificant and invisible, and that comes from a lack of education, and in media especially, like, disabled people we're like less than 1% represented on screen.
Yeah.
And, I wish that we could just, from a young age, experience, like, get told, like, these real things that happen in life, as difficult as they may seem. Like, it's just something that we should be able to teach people so they can deal with it better later in life,
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's the fear of, like, I think it's the fear that keeps most people are good. Like, most people want to help. Most people want to, like, want to, like, not do that thing that you just mentioned. I think that it's fear. It's like fear of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, or just like the unknown, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's how we deal with the unknown. But if you make it known, and it's normalizing, it puts people at ease. And I think that's what you guys are doing. I think it might be easier, at least in that capacity, to be growing up now that you have access to things like the podcasts like this and the conversations that are happening around it, the open conversations. We did not have that.
No.
In any way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Growing
it's
up,
like
that
to
was
talk
not
about
a-
any of this stuff, there was like a controlled atmosphere where you would go to like the gym and they have an assembly where like somebody like comes and talks to 500 kids about it or whatever. And
Right.
then that's like, and then they send you home. They're like, cool. Yeah. Now you know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
But like you would feel shame though. Like if you were dealing with that or you had a family member, like you would feel shame that you wouldn't want to tell people about it because then it looks like you're not a good functioning member of society or your family's crazy. So like, again, that stigma of it and just not having the right tools or even the way it was presented to us when we were younger
Yeah.
was just a terrible depiction of what it's really like.
It was kind of like just reinforcing the stigma, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like certain people, like certain cultures, like for my culture, I'll tell family members, like, you need to see a therapist, just like talk your problems. Like, no, that's for crazy people.
Mhm.
That's for people who are like really have problems. And like, no, it's you need to talk about these things because I don't know, in the Spanish culture, we just keep everything so inside and we don't share feelings, So
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think Stuart mentioned it on the podcast last. Like, my mom's side of the family is Mexican American, and my dad's side of the family, it's a generational thing too.
Yeah.
Like you really have to. My parents are amazing humans, and they continue to evolve and to learn and to grow, and it's been amazing to see them like expose themselves to this sort of like self-reflection, and it empowers like my brother and I to do the same, but it's definitely not everywhere,
Yeah.
It's a real challenge for some people that, hopefully it doesn't have to be forever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we forget our parents are just people too.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're doing just like we do. And they're trying to figure it out. So like, they don't necessarily know how to help because this is something that's brand new to them. And then also, like you were just saying, like not only is your culture, but like as males, like mental health in men, that's why men have the highest suicide rate between the ages of 24 and 48. The number one leading killer in males is unaliving yourself.
Wow.
I have to use that term because you can't even use it on forums anymore because it's censored, which is absolutely ridiculous. Wow. But it's not talked about enough. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to do at AMP, and just further that conversation because like it's needed now more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could still be masculine and be, emotional and empathetic. It's like you have to be strong. Like nothing phases you.
Only show anger. It's like,
Right.
I can't cry because I really need to.
Or like be there for someone, like be a shoulder to lean on. Like
Yes.
I mean, it was a huge comfort to me to know that like you were there for Stu and Stu's been there for you.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing because, from the outside looking in as a family member that my brother's going through this, there's only so much I can do, or there's only so much talking to me is going to help. And in fact, talking to me probably doesn't really help that much. And I'll never forget when I asked a buddy of mine when all this was first happening, who I knew had struggled with addiction, I asked him, how should I talk to my brother about this? I feel like I'm failing, because I feel like I'm just tensing up and things are coming out wrong. And he was like, you just need to remember one thing. He doesn't need you for this. Like he needs you to be his brother. He needs you for a lot of other things, but he doesn't need you for this. He has someone for that, or he has groups for that. He has like, is he in a group? He's asking me like, does he have a sponsor? Is he in a group? Like, does he have friends that that he can talk to? I was like, yes, absolutely. He's like, he's got them for that. Yeah. Like, he's like, you just need to love him. And if he wants to talk to you about it, he will. And you can ask about it sometimes, but it's not on you, dude. Just like, just relax and just be his brother, And that was like a huge, huge lesson. So, it's great that he has you. Thank you.
Trust me, having him helps me, especially when I first went through it. It was amazing to just have somebody who's a close friend. It's like, oh, you've been through this. You've been sober for how many years? All right, awesome. And the fact that I didn't want to go to meetings, man. Like, it sucks in the beginning. He's like, yo, come on, I'll go with you. Like, if he didn't come with me, I don't know if I would have went to a bunch of them like I did. Because it's like, you do feel embarrassed and you do feel ashamed and you do feel I felt awful about myself, and not because it's like, oh, I have to go to AA, but it's like, man, I feel like I let so many people down. Man, I left myself down. Man, how did I let it get to this point? Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I catch it? Like, so it's just, it gets frustrating. So having the right people around you that actually care, like, makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
So if you were to give somebody advice that was going through this, like in the shoes in the Al-Anon, what would be something that you would tell them? I mean, you just gave a great piece of advice that your friend gave you, but besides that.
Yeah. I would say, look, in the short term, I would say just do what needs to be done, right?
Yeah.
Do what needs to be done to make sure that that person is going to be okay, like safe, like in the short term. And overall, look, I'm not, just disclaimer, like I'm not an expert here, and every situation is so different. But I would just try to remember that, like, you just come from a place, like everything that you're going to do or everything that you're thinking about saying, I would do this thing where I just would practice saying something. And if I felt like it was going to come out wrong, I would practice saying, like, look, just know that I love you. Okay. And I just need to say this, but just know that I love you first, and then say the thing.
Yeah.
And see how that affects how it might come out, because it might help you get the things out you need to say, and it might help them hear it. Even if you don't say I love you, like when you're actually talking to them, just practice it, like everybody's so different in the families, and there's so much involved with family, and how it makes things harder sometimes when there's like, different dynamics in different families. But I think if you're coming from a place of love, you're going to be fine, and just use the resources. Like, if this is you, like, stop listening to me, go find a professional, and I'm sure you guys have the resources, go to the sites that they recommend, and look it up and read and take yourself out of it, and learn, and you'll be grateful that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got one last question before we get you out of here. So that's how you would help other people. And obviously you've helped Stu, but that was a traumatic experience for you. How have you healed yourself or grown past that, or take acceptance to it? Because I think a lot of people that have struggled with family members, something that I know I know my parents and my brother are always a little on edge. Like if I say I'm having a hard time, or like, I just feel really down, it's like, I know that raises a red flag right away. And I'm like, shit, can I even talk to you guys about this? Because I know it brings up trauma for them.
Yeah.
So how have you healed from that, or are healing?
That's hard. That's hard, because they want, they want the best for you.
Yeah.
And like, there is a certain thing that comes over you where you find yourself every time you see them sort of like looking for signs, and you realize, oh, they can tell that I'm looking for signs. Like, this has got to stop. Like, I think you have to do the healing in order to get past that. And part of it is I think remembering, I think you mentioned it earlier. It's like, look, if they want this, they'll be doing it, and also realizing it's not like a straight road to like, it's, I've got a problem, and now I'm in recovery, and now I'm recovered. Like, it's a long and winding road.
It's a forever journey.
And there's a lot of stops along the way. And you know what? It might not go right the first time, and it might not go right the second time, but it's like, as long as you're there as a support system, and as long as you are there, as long as you love that person, and as long as you are showing them that you love them, you want to make sure that you can be that person for them, and that you're not creating an environment where they feel like they can't be themselves around you, or they need to run from you. You want them to run to you if they need you.
Yeah.
So if you want to be that safe place, you have to find a certain peace with it, whatever that means with you.
Awesome, man.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, is there anything you're excited about right now coming up besides, having a whole series, a whole season of a show?
Well, I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been, I'm really, really excited for the second season to come out, and, for you guys to see it, and for you guys to see it. And, I'm excited to, watch it again with my family and my friend's family, that we all made it, together. Like, I'm excited for that moment. We can just, find the tile of the streamer that it's on and click it, and it pops up, and we're watching it with the rest of the country. That's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
And so,
Hell yeah, man.
So
Check
yeah,
out season 1.
Can't wait, brother
can't wait to
James.
finish it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Your vulnerability, your honesty, we loved it. Thank you. We appreciate it. Everybody, make sure you go check out Everyone Is Doing Great season 1 on Amazon. Make sure you look out for season 2. You just watched an episode of Chaos Control with actor, writer, producer, director James Lafferty. I'm your host, Mikey Tableman, alongside
Danny J. Gomez.
We'll catch you next time. Peace.